So decided to spare y'all the boring step-by-step of getting the trans out of the 3000 GT. Yeah, up on the jack stands. Pulled the transmission out, bench pressed it off my chest. Decided I'll go ahead and deadlift it up and then stick it over there on the workbench there, so on the little toolbox. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the tear down, and then we're gonna get to see exactly how nasty this thing is. I can tell you now that the drain plug was pretty horrific, so bear with me. I'm gonna start taking the case apart, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so you can see here I got the original transmission from my car apart. Right off of the bat, the first thing that I noticed when I got the gearbox out was this. As you can see, the input shaft's got a nice little chunk missing out of it. I actually did find the chunk stuck to the magnet on the drain, so it made it down to the bottom of the trans and kind of stuck there. If you look right here, you can see the nice sweep that comes out of here where the tooth is cut. You can see how it's intact. It's in really good shape. That's actually pretty impressive to me. It's 134,000 miles on the car, 132, 134,000 on the car now. You can tell that it's never been launched. This is not deformed in any way, shape, or form. It's just normal gear wear. This is what this little divot right here is from. Normal gear riding right there. You can see that the rest of the shaft, pretty consistent, is in decent condition. The second and third, or the 3/4 synchros were never problematic on my car. The first gear engagement was, I had a little bit of a grunge, but my reverse was a pop-out issue. The secondary shafts actually look pretty comparable. They're in pretty good shape, but here's what I noticed about my secondary shaft on my car. That clicking is what I heard. I heard that clicking, and every time I clutch in, it would stop. And then I put it in gear, and you'd hear it clicking. The other thing I heard was this. You hear kind of a gravelly sound. So my end case bearing, I thought it was my input shaft bearing, but it was my end case bearing that was shot. So I heard that, and those were a couple of things that made me go, okay, I need to go ahead and get a grip on that. But here's my other secondary shaft, and get the synchro up. You can hear spinning it, silent, quiet. So I think I found some of my noises going on in my trans. So when I put this back together with this gear set, I think I'll be in better shape. What I'm curious about is the 2-3 synchro, I guess, is how it's going to hold up, and the reverse synchro. I don't know how the condition that it's in, so I'll be finding that out on the fly if I've got a reverse or not. Hopefully I do. We'll find out. But everything else seems like it's going to be usable. It should be in good shape. Hopefully when I get this thing together, it'll hold together long enough and it won't give me any problems long enough for me to rebuild the original trans that came out of my car, and then I can have a fresh transmission. Then I'll pull the transmission again and then swap this trans out and rebuild it as well. Or if it's in as good a shape as it seems like, when I get everything together, cleaned up and put back together, hopefully I can end up in a situation where, I can leave that trans in and run it until something goes wrong, and then I've got a fresh backup, who knows. But this is where I'm at with it right now. You can see my mess. Got my crap all over the place. I also found a broken bolt hole that I didn't know was there. I didn't realize that was there. So I've got my other case here. I'm gonna use the other midsection and that'll get rid of that little problem, so my other midsection will be in good shape. I also found my water bottle was dry rotted enough now that it's just trash, so I need a washer bottle, because you know I'm trying to make everything that's original on the car function. It's nothing like having a dry rotted washer bottle. So got new axles, you know, got new axles for it. Rather than screw around, you can see how beat down my other axles were. Sorry about my air conditioning. So we're moving along. I'm gonna get rid of that trash, get rid of some of that trash, and then hopefully my car will be better than it was when I took it apart. I don't know. Wish me luck. All right. I got my housings as clean as they're gonna get. Some of these housings, I don't know. This center housing, I don't know the rep on it. I don't know what it came out of or what. The one thing that kind of was a pain in getting the housings as clean is, you know, the dirt's kind of caked on. You can't get it all off. I mean, look at that. It's a mess, but it's cleaner than it was. And cosmoline too on the outside of the casing makes it 10 times harder to take care of. But got everything cleaned up as good as it's going to get, and I'm going to start reassembling. So hopefully I'll be able to get this thing back together today. It's 1:15. Still got to clean my forks up a little bit, but it should be okay. We'll see. And I'm going to keep soldiering on. All right, so I did end up getting my transmission back together that weekend. Got everything tightened up. Got rid of 3 of the 4 problems that I had with my transmission originally. Got to remember, this was a backyard bruiser, somebody's project that they couldn't finish. Basically, once I got everything taken care of, I had a reverse pop out, which was solved with the other gear set. I had a noisy in-case bearing, which you can see the bearing is off. The in-case bearing rides the main shaft here that you can see. I had a gronch going into first gear, that's been cured, and then I had a ticking noise or a knocking noise that comes from the transmission. In 3000 GT community, that's pretty common. A lot of guys complain about it, but I don't think there's been a real assessment as to what is actually going on. So what you're looking at is the reverse gear on the main shaft at the end of the case, right near the shift forks, right here, right? You can see the ends of them right there. You're looking at the main shaft, and then next to that main shaft that rides this gear and this guy right here is a reverse idler. And as you can see, that reverse gear is worn, and it's, I mean, we're talking worn out. And there's just no other way to really describe it. You don't really worry about reverse because it's not like you're driving your car in reverse very long, right? You're talking, what, 15, 20 feet of reverse coming in and out of your driveway, and then going and slapping the thing in first gear and then rolling on about your business. Well, as you can see, over the years, it's taken its toll. A lot of these gearboxes are old. They're starting to wear out. There's nothing that you can really do about it. It's one of those things where you got to replace a main shaft. You can find one. Good luck. If you're looking for a factory one, obviously your best bet is to try to get an upgraded input shaft and main shaft from, you know, Revenge or somebody like that who deals with it. You know, get a 300M shaft. I don't know if they do the same on the input shaft and the main gears, but you get the gist. Basically, what's going on is as that guy starts wearing down to a blade, you can see how thin it gets before it gets thicker out here towards the edge. So you can tell that's where the gear is riding. What you end up with is there's a preset amount of play that's dialed in to the reverse idler. You can see the reverse idlers, they come away unscathed. This is What's in my box right now is my spare. I was just trying to see if there was a height difference. You can see this is the one that was actually in the transmission. You can see all the oil on it, right? You can see that the gear width is consistent from top to bottom of the gear. What you end up with is, as the main gear wears out, it creates the slack and the slop that's here. That slack and slop helps promote gear movement. And what you end up with is, as the main shaft wears down, the bracket assembly that actually holds this in place, you can see that the gear sits here. Once you've got a bolt in it and it's set, you end up with an amount of a gap. And that gap, what you're hearing is the gear actually coming up and beating up on this bracket right here. And that's why it's so prominent on the end case. It makes more sense now that you see it up front. What's going on is over that time, when that slapping is occurring, it's happening when you're driving down the road. The one thing that I thought was pretty unusual was that as I poured on speed, it would get quieter, altogether just not do it at all. But as you come down to lower speeds, it would return. It was very much rotational. And what's going on is the thin spot is pushing, coasting, and as it's pushing, it's popping the gear up like so. The other thing is when you put your vehicle in reverse, and I don't know if anybody who's had this problem has done this, you put the vehicle in reverse, that noise disappears altogether. And the reason why is because this gear is locked in, it's under the weight of the vehicle, it's under some torque, and so it has consistently got pressure on it, and the gear doesn't move as much. It goes, it moves, it shifts, it does its move whenever you let out on the clutch. It pops, and then once it pops, it stays in that position. It doesn't bounce back and forth like it does when you're driving down the highway or driving it in the neighborhood, you know, taxiing out, getting ready to go down the road. Because as it's idled and it's not under weight, it's popping back and forth and it's knocking that. So that's what the deal is. I don't know if there's a short-term fix for it. I mean, technically the short-term fix would be to find a way to take up the clearance that's allowing this gear to pop back and forth like that. And you get rid of that clearance, you actually load the main shaft a little bit better, and it'll actually quiet down and probably stay in that position, but you would also take the risk of wearing the main shaft a little bit more. The other thing is the real only fix for this is to replace the main shaft that's in the transmission. And then once you replace the main shaft, that problem should completely go away. And you should even be able to use your helical cut reverse idlers, because they just don't get worn out. It's the main shaft that takes all the beating. The other thing is, this problem would not exist on this transmission if it were a straight cut reverse like it is on many transmissions. But I guess what Mitsubishi was trying to avoid on their flagship was a bunch of high-pitched whine in reverse. You know, a lot of those older cars, they whine in reverse. Well, this car doesn't do that. It's very silent no matter what gear you select, and that's because these gears are helical cut. But the problem with helical cut is once they wear, they start to push and pull on the gear instead of leaving that gear in that position. If that gear is not set by a bearing on either side, you end up with this problem. So that's my take on it. Hopefully I'll be able to come up with a temporary solution, kind of fix the problem. And hopefully this will help you guys out that run into this on the forums. I'll probably make a post on 3SI to kind of give some insight into my experiences with doing the transmission. W5MG1 5-speed manual transmission on a VR4. So hopefully this helps anybody out if they're curious, they have this problem, they've been trying to figure it out, they think it's an input shaft bearing, they think it's a throwout bearing. It's not. It's none of that. It's actually your reverse idler, and it's actually your main gear being just plain worn out from long service life. You know, these cars are what, 30 years old now? So, you know, my particular car is, you know, 31 years old now. So, you know, it's one of those deals where you're gonna have to rebuild the transmission. You're gonna have to use new parts. This is just to get me by temporarily, so that I can actually completely build a brand new gear set and then install it in this housing. I've already taken this housing apart. You guys have yet to really see that because I haven't posted about it yet. But after today, if I can get this remedied after today, y'all will probably see a post about this whole thing. So stay up on it, man. Hopefully this video gets to you guys. Y'all can kind of see for yourselves what's going on and then come up with a solution. Maybe rebuild a transmission or just get a whole nother trans altogether. So stay tuned. You guys have a good one. Okay, back again. So I think I found, like I say, a short-term solution like I was talking about in the other video. You can see everything is, I got my bolt in, okay? The stay bracket, reverse idler, okay? You can see that it spins right there. And if you look, you can see that the clearance is minimal, right? It's still very smooth running. And what I've done is, to get rid of that clearance, I've actually used a thin washer. And that washer is large enough around to go around the outside of the cage bearings that ride inside the gear and around the pin for the idler. And it's just thick enough to get rid of the play. And I'm hoping that's going to take care of my problem. I've already got this thing, cleaned up as best as I can. It's, pretty much ready to go back in. You can tell that this transmission at one point experienced a blow up. That's what that was from. That's an old bit of damage that was there from a blow up from previous owner, and I have no idea when that happened. But at any rate, I'm going to put this thing back together. We're going to see if my knocking noise goes away, and if it goes away, then I'm going to go back. This is aluminum. Unfortunately, it's all I had, right? But if it works, then what I'm going to do, since this is so easy to remove, it doesn't even take that long to get this guy off, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to size a steel washer, and in the thickness and the internal diameter. And then once I do that, I will probably use this until I can get a new gear set made, and then we'll go on from there. But I've yet to tell you what size this is because I didn't have my mic to measure it. So once I find that out, I'll disclose that information as well. But I'm quite positive that because not every gear main shaft in the transmission is going to wear the same, that information is going to be on a case-by-case basis. What works for me may not work for you because your transmission may wear a little more, a little less, and you may need a thinner washer, so on and so forth. So you kind of get the idea, but this could help bail some people out and get them by without having to do a complete rebuild. If there's nothing else wrong with the transmission and you just hear it knocking and it's just this problem, then it's literally, jack the car up, yank the wheel, drain the trans, pull the in case, and then put it back together with a washer in on the reverse idler, and you go on about life. Reseal it with RTV, refill the trans, and move on about your life, man. So hopefully that's what's going to happen here. Won't know for sure until I get this thing done. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and keep you guys posted. I'll get a video of it running, hopefully with no noise. So let's see what happens. All right, happy days, happy days. There's the car running. You can hear the knocks gone away. It sounded like a deep rod knock from up here. But you can actually hear that my engine's perfectly fine. Transmission is perfectly silent right now. So it is the spacer, it is the reverse idler that's causing the noise, but it's the actual main shaft that's making that happen because of the wear and tear. They're just old and they need to be replaced. So this is a quick fix. Like I said, it's a temporary deal. I need to put a steel shim in it, and I'll probably get a steel shim and then measure one out and make it work, and then this will get me by until I can build a transmission. As you can hear, that solves my problem. Everything else is good to go. Like I said, that was 3 out of 4 when I originally built the trans to get rid of the problem. Well, now we're 4 out of 4. Now I don't have any transmission problems at all. Everything is fixed. So I'm pretty stoked, pretty happy. Man, it couldn't have worked out better. Just super stoked that everything was fairly simple fine. I didn't have to pull the transmission back out. I took my time on this to figure out what the issue was, so it took a little bit longer. I'd say if you're experienced tech, we've had transmissions apart, dealt with transmissions in the past, you're probably talking about dealing with something that'll take 2 to 3 hours max. I've been on this probably around like 4.5, almost 5 hours. I would say 2 to 3 hours max to fix the problem. If you have all the parts and everything that you need at your disposal and you don't have to go looking and trumpeting through stuff like I had to do. You could probably get it done even quicker than that if you just had everything ready to rock and roll. So just a heads up out there, that's what the problem is. Now you guys know there's no more, question as to what might be causing the noise, what it could be. No, it's not a throwout bearing. No, it's not an input shaft bearing. It is literally the reverse idler banging up against the case bracket that holds the idler in place because of the wear and tear that's on the input shaft. So hopefully this helps y'all out. If y'all ever run across this problem, you ever have this issue, now you know what to do. If everything else is okay in your transmission, you don't have to go pulling the entire transmission and going through it. Like I said, I had multiple problems, so it was the only prudent way to handle my issues. But if this is the only problem that you end up with is the let's call it a transmission knock, then it is not an impossibly hard feat to take care of. But what it does do is it tells you, hey, you better start thinking about rebuilding your transmission soon. I don't know how long this mod's going to last. I really just plan on using it long enough to get me by to build another transmission that's brand new, like I said before. Let's see where it takes us. You guys have a good one.